Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Dev Summits. We've had some great sessions today. We're thrilled to share the stage up here with Mastercard, and I'll let Jen introduce herself.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Jen Premisler. I lead Segment Solutions, one of those segments being gaming at Mastercard. Before we go on kind of with the presentation, we thought we'd tell you a little bit about why Mastercard has gotten involved in gaming, where we see it going, and why we're excited about this partnership. And then I think I'll turn it back to Berkley for a bit, and then we'll go back and forth. So why gaming? So about 6 years ago, Mastercard first got into gaming through an esports partnership with Riot. That was really an extension of the work we had done in sponsoring sports teams and leagues and stuff for years. And we're just sort of dipping our toes, learning a little bit. And then fast forward to the pandemic, and of course, everybody's home, playing games themselves, watching their kids game, spending money on games, because that was the outlet. And really realizing, I think, that gaming had evolved so much in the last 10 years and really was the place where people went to socialize, still is, where there's a ton of spend being made, where technology is kind of on the forefront more than other industries. And so just from a Mastercard perspective generally, we got really interested, wanted to learn a lot more, kind of went down that path, did research, spoke to a lot of companies, and thought about who are the right partners for us to work with, and really about how we can help make the experience better, both for publishers and developers, but also for the consumer gamer. In that journey, we met Xsolla, actually for the first time here last year in person, and really realized that we were really aligned in the kind of problems we wanted to both solve for those parties I mentioned, and also how we wanted to do it, and where our strengths could benefit each other. So that's really how we got into this. It's been so much fun working with Xsolla, exploring the opportunities. We're going to talk a little bit about one in particular today that we're already going after and doing together, but we have a big roadmap on things that we can do. Web 2, starting to talk about Web 3, and just how we help each other for this industry and everybody in it. So
that's perfect. Again, Berkley here at Xsolla, our drive and our focus that we look at is helping the developers to launch, fund, market, and monetize your games. There's no better way to do that for help you accelerate your growth in your game from a global perspective is to work with a partner such as Mastercard to be able to provide additional opportunities for ways to pay, ways to play the game, and to seamlessly integrate our two strengths and capabilities that we have on a global level to make it seamless, more secure, more safe to make a transaction and find new ways to go do that and open up money. We sometimes like to call it free money with points. And so we're going to talk about that today. We're going to go into some of the reasons why it makes sense. And then we're going to show you how it's going to work.
All right. So through research that we've done and talking to all of those stakeholders, developers, publishers, and consumers, it really came to our attention that consumers, there's a lot of friction, right, in paying when you're a gamer in a game. And some of that is friction that exists in traditional e-commerce as well, and some of it is a little bit more about gaming, because when you're in the game, you don't really care about anything else other than playing that game. Yes, maybe you want to get a digital good, or be able to level up or whatever, and you have to pay for it, but that's not the purpose that you're there, as opposed to traditional commerce, where the purpose is to get that thing, right? And so it's a little bit different. There's still a long ways to go in making that experience, I think, amazing, and we're going to work together to do that. But what we decided to focus on first was curing one of the #1 pain points, which is how you pay. And so roughly 40% of gamers say that they have friction online. My guess is it's more like 70%, but they're not thinking about all those times that they went to pay. The other thing is gamers want to be able to give each other currency or in-game items. Parents or others want to be able to gift those things. And there's just no seamless way to do that right now. In the US, we generally go to the local CVS or whatever your pharmacy or whatever of choice is and get an actual gift card. That's not true around the world. And so it's very hard, and even that is not a great process, let's not kid ourselves, but even when issued by Mastercard, not the best process. Because then you have to open it up, put in the digits, no one wants to do that. So if you think about, and then if you think about places where they don't have that capability, you can't just walk in someplace and get a gift card. How do we make that better, right? And so we need to take down the number of steps, but we also need to make it economical for everybody in the space. Go to the next one. So then we thought about, okay, how do we cure that together? And we decided, I think rather quickly, that we could leverage some capabilities that we had without having to recreate the wheel that actually could fix this in a new way for gaming, but not necessarily a new way for other industries. So we started to go down the journey of points. So I'm sure all of you have some type of card or other even merchant-led loyalty scheme where the points just sit there, miles, points, whatever you want to call them. They sit there for a long amount of time. Sometimes they expire, sometimes they don't. You save up to get that, 25,000 point flight at a minimum. It's usually more these days. And you don't really get to use those things. And so while it's interesting to you, it's not something that's making you want to spend. It's not necessarily something that you feel good about using all the time. So when we did the research, we found out that 67% of gamers would be more likely to purchase frequently with points. In other industries, what we see, and so just consumers generally, they are 3 times more likely to purchase if they are purchasing with points. And the basket size, so the amount that they're spending, is 27% higher if they're using points versus using cash or cash equivalent. So those are huge lifts. Not only is your turnover rate higher then, because it's 3 times more likely that they're gonna buy, but then the actual amount they're spending is so much higher. And that obviously benefits the publishers and the developers, both of those things. The other thing is that they, well, it's called loyalty. They're only so loyal because if you had points that could be spent in games, they would switch from that card brand or card type or payment type. And so that's really powerful too. So the gamers are likely to be less loyal to their payment method and more loyal to the benefit they get of using that payment method related to gaming. So this led us together to think about how we embed Mastercard's Pay with Points solution, which exists today in other industries. We use it for airlines, other merchants, but for much larger ticket items. How do we think about using that with Xsolla? And so do you want to talk a little bit about what that looks like?
Yeah, let's jump in here. So that's something to think about. You talk about normal value of what you cash in points, essentially, and it's a huge ticket item. It's a hotel room, it's a airline, it's other things that you would want to use of usually travel related in a lot of cases. That's the most use case that's familiar to everybody. But to be able to use that as a microtransaction from a game perspective is significant. So walking through the flow, and there's a little bit of demonstration, very simple from the user interface. You go to the merchant store, you navigate through there, you pick the items or you pick the game of choice that you want to do, normal process, right? Go to your checkout page, you finalize the card, add a couple things in there. But then the option is, because you hit pay with credit card, your account balance shows up, so it gives you the option to pay with points with one click. And to simplify that process, so most of the times when you do points and it's like, all right, now I need to do my ID number, I need a verification, and it's 2-step verification, other things like that. All that process has already been handled because you connected your Mastercard to your player account. As a user, you complete the purchase, pay in real time, and those digital goods, digital items, or the game is already on your platform. You sign in, play the game, enjoy. The benefits here are tremendous because you think about it, we could be doing transactions of $10, $15, $20 or a bundle pack or subscription that's up to $100. And the dream getting down to a usable ratio of what points to dollars translates in your head and make it simple to be able to process that and to go, oh, okay, that took 100 points for that transaction and you don't even think about 100 points to be able to use it. And from a player perspective, but as a developer, it's free money. It's money that you didn't have access to before and be able to offer that. And so your players can go and use their points. You don't think about 100 points. It's just forgotten about. But you get that tremendous value the same value or even more so than you would if you paid with your credit card and it went onto your account balance. So then, why? you're adding it to the cart, you select your payment method, and it's just breaking it down a little bit more on what that view looks like from the user interface. Simplified that with our PayStation product that we upgraded here in January. From an experience, it's customized, it's in your colors, it's in your brand. You integrate that simply into the experience, and you never really take the player out of your game. You keep them in your game, keep them integrated, pay with points. Everybody wins in that scenario, and you get that much more enjoyment. Think about it, we're both parents, and your kids are like, hey, Mom, Dad, I want to go make this purchase, and you're like, well, okay, hold on a second. You don't want to give them full access to your credit card. You're like, okay, you can buy whatever you have. I'll give you 100 points. Let me know what it is. Go through the process to verify as a parent, but be able to use that. It's something you can reward your kids. You reward friends, like whatever. Gift those out to people and to be able to use your points into it. And then, why does this matter? Big 3 things. Expand your reach, be able to reach new players, new games, new customers, boost those conversion rates. That's the huge one that we really see in this experience. Increase the possibility for them to go, oh, okay, they went in the market, went in their basket and their shopping cart, and to be able to go, okay, make that transaction. It's one click. I don't have to do 3, 4, 5 like you normally would if you were on another e-commerce platform. And then ultimately, it's all about loyalty. You want the players to keep coming back, keep engaging, keep paying, keep playing, and enjoy their game.
Yep. And I think the one thing to keep in mind here is sometimes it gets a little confusing, but they're aggregating these points on spend wherever they spend it, everyday spend. So you're getting the benefit of them spending money on milk, on a plane ticket, on whatever it is that they're buying every day. And now they're able to use those points to spend with you. So traditionally, loyalty programs are often tied, like where do you earn the points is tied to where you can spend the points. Mm-hmm. This is not, and I think that that's huge to keep in mind. So they get access to it because they've spent money somewhere else. Now, if they spend money on your platform, they'll also get points, right, that get loaded in. But it's money that you wouldn't have had access to as like the publisher or developer before.
And that's critical, as you go forward, and that's why we keep saying, we kind of use the analogy that it's free money, because you reward them for everyday transactions, the things you guys say all the time, mm-hmm. from normal transactions and doing for the program, but be able to bring this to gaming. You're like, some of you are probably sitting in a room like, I should be able to do this today, right? This is a first in the industry. This is revolutionizing how we're going to be able to enable players to play and pay for their games as they go forward. Something we're very, very excited about. This is just the first step. Mm-hmm. And the things that we're going to be working on with Mastercard and bringing it from a global perspective, and we're really, really excited about it.
Yep. And I think we want to hear from all of you guys working with Xsolla on mm-hmm. what you want to see next that's maybe additional to this or similar to this, because I think we have a lot of opportunity to innovate and bring better experiences, more payment options, more free money, if we can, to you guys.
And one of the things, just to kind of wrap up, is this is a collaboration, this is a partnership, and you're working with partners, you're doing different things. I think one of the other messages we'd love to deliver is find somebody you respect, find somebody you like, find somebody you engage with. We've laughed and cried like so many times through these processes over the last year, but just ultimately it's about trust. You trust each other, you go back and forth, you push each other in different things. You're not always going to agree. It goes from those pizza boxes, whiteboard conversations, to make the dream come alive. And we're thrilled some of those early conversations. I mean, this is almost the anniversary of when we first kicked off, and and how meetings go and put that together. But really challenge yourself, be open to partnerships and dialogue, and find people you trust, because ultimately what we're trying to deliver is give trust to the consumer, mm-hmm. that they trust the process, they trust what's going on, safe, secure, simplified transactions that we're able to provide. So that wraps us up on the slides. Xsolla will be at the booth tomorrow, starting at 10 a.m. At S549, and you guys have
We have a table today down the hall, and we're around. But also, would love to hear any questions you guys have, any thoughts, comments. Do you mind using the mic? Just so everyone can hear. Thank you.
quickly, if you could, is this on?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. How's the cash flow work to small game developer publishers? You publish on the Xsolla platform, and then they use this benefit through your connection with Mastercard, and so that they're just getting the cash flow back, same as you would normally use points.
Yeah, you kind of nailed it. And we'll partner, with you as a developer. It doesn't matter if you're AAA or an indie, just trying to get your game launched and put it together, and or a mobile game from a web shop perspective. If you're a mobile game, as we all know, that you can top up your accounts on a web shop, to be able to come into this experience as the same checkout process would integrate PayStation with you and have this as an option as soon as somebody logged in, set up their account, chose credit cards, and then your MasterCard's ready to go. And you would see their points balance.
I think we have one at the back.
Yeah.
And then some at the front.
Hello, I have two questions. First, did you see some kind of good result with specific type of games and specific type of genre overall? And the second is, did you see certain user behavior in the game reflected with other behavior in the consumption of other flight ticket or other goods in general?
Yeah, so this is coming soon to a theater near you, as we like to say. So we're in launch plans with the Xsolla rollout. What we've seen in other industries, because this is the first in gaming, is that big lift on how often a consumer will spend because of the points and how much more per basket. When we look at some of the industries where we allow pay with points for smaller ticket items, the reality is those businesses aren't things that consumers are super interested in, right? So like CVS, a drugstore, you can do pay with points at CVS, and maybe you're buying a pack of gum or you're buying mouthwash or whatever it is. You're not excited about buying that. You're like, all right, fine, maybe I'll use my points. But they don't have as much uptick there. It's not about the basket size. We've done the research. It's actually about the fact that that thing is not that interesting to them, so they don't care what they use to buy it. They got to buy it either way. Whereas here, I think the interesting thing is that your gamers have told us in research that they want to be able to basically get stuff what they consider for free, and they're willing to use points to do that. So I think we're expecting, I think our benchmark would be the numbers that I threw out for general e-commerce. My hypothesis, though, is that we'll be higher in gaming because of that loyal gamer who wants to spend as much money as possible in a game.
One thing to add to that is what we're seeing from a user perspective. We're seeing over 50% of users are paying with a credit card. So that number is going to go up, is our forecast when this happens. Because it's simplified. It's another option. You kind of have a choice. Do I just want to pay with the credit card, or do I want to pay with points?
Okay, got you. Thanks.
No problem. Good question.
Hello. So quick question. So what platforms are you specifically targeting with this service? Like, is this going for consoles and PCs and everything in between, or is there a specific platform that you're hitting? And then another follow-up question to that is, does this system apply to purchases pertaining to bigger game packages, or does this also apply to microtransactions within those games and even other DLC or add-ons for games as well?
Sure. No, great question. So it's PC, mobile, web, games, and even ones in the cloud as well. We go into it, and so that'll follow the normal process. What was the second part of your question?
Microtransactions.
Microtransactions. So yes, so it's not only big game packs to go make the purchase. We showed that example at $39.99, but if there was a scan at $4.99, you could use that. That's the goal, is to be able to provide that opportunity. So in theory, 5 points. If we can get, based on the bank and the relationship that goes on with your bank that you're using, that is a MasterCard. When you look at your credit card, if it's Wells Fargo, Bank of America, or whoever, Chase or whoever, based on that relationship and the value that comes through, you should be able to use just, hey, I want to just this one scan, I'm good, to use 5 points to go do that. That, you're not even going to think about. You're just going to click, done.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hi, thanks. Also, ex-IPG Entertainment, so I worked on your Riot integration.
Welcome
but
back.
I was wondering, because I know you guys work with bank issuers, I was wondering which kind of banks are diving most into gaming you're seeing, because I know that they actually kind of audit and issue the point system. So I'm curious to hear from both of you, like, which banks do you think are kind of on the forefront or issuers that are kind of catering to gamers?
Yeah, so I'd say the banks have not necessarily gotten in this game yet in the really leaning in to gaming as a segment and all the value they can provide and all the value they can get out of it, right? That's partly our job in this relationship is to bring that to light to them. We've been having those conversations. That said, we have lots of banks that are already part of the Pay with Points platform. So as part of this work, the banks are being told about what we're doing. They're being given the opportunity to allow their points to be used on these games. We've gotten no pushback to date at all, because for the most part, they're not tied to a particular loyalty program, right? They just want their points to be able to be used so that people spend more on their cards so that points get used again. Like, it's all circular. So we actually think, I mean, and this is global too, right? So in the US, I could give you some examples, but that I think would lean in, but the reality is I actually think other markets may even lean in further, particularly where those banks are trying to gain market share, right? So US is a little different because it's a very concentrated, ecosystem from a payment perspective. But if you look at markets where credit card might not be king, or any kind of card might not be king, the banks there are going to be super incentivized to do this. Middle East Africa, parts of Asia, even Latin America. Not that I don't think Europe and US will, I definitely think they will. But I think that those banks are going to push harder because they want that consumer. That's my gut. I don't have data to prove that to you, but it's my gut.
Thanks for the talk. I love where the direction is taking this. The free money is more than that. It's giving more ways to spend the money that you earn somewhere else. What I'm curious about is maybe next plans of making this more generally available. Maybe an Xsolla card that's powered by Mastercard that, you could pay on all of your games that you earn points with, and then you can now reuse that whole entire platform, more synergy. So anything like that in the works instead of just limiting to people that already have that Mastercard?
Eugene, did you hear that?
You got that, buddy?
We have a lot of things in our roadmap.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if you saw that at some point soon. But there's a number of initiatives that we're working together that frankly aren't all about card.
Right.
Because MasterCard, and I know that it's most common to think of us as card, and that's our roots, but we have a whole host of products and services that are not necessarily even about the transaction, but that can be enabled through Xsolla, or they can consume them, produce an experience for better fraud capabilities, quicker upload of your card information through secure remote commerce and wallet use and all that stuff. There's stuff that we do around identity, marketing stuff that's not related to an actual transaction. So I think the world is kind of our oyster in this relationship, which is why we found that synergy. That may or may not be on the roadmap, but I wouldn't be surprised if you saw it.
Thanks.
For sure. Good idea.
Hello, my name is Randolph Farsad. Great talk,
Randolph.
by the way. Beautiful talk. I have a two-part question. Okay. Part one, is there a way to create a pseudo profile for the individual? So say if there's let's say there's an adult who wants to have their child play the game, but I only want to limit them to the points themselves. Is there a way to do that? And then the second part of the question, if there is a way to do that, is there a way to create a bridge so that I can allow my son or daughter or child, or whatever you want to call it, to spend a fixed allotted amount of the points, and then once they get past that points, allow for a certain amount of money to draw from the card itself? Is there a way to create some sort of profile that can be designated to a child in that regard? That's the second part of the question.
So I'll jump in there. I've had this conversation come from the esports side of things before I came to Xsolla all the time. I would have parents come up and it was like, I just blew $3,600 on. I'm like, did they buy the whole Fortnite catalog? And they're like, yep. And I'm like, what'd you do? Well, it was a confirmed transaction and went through the whole process and is what it is. And I was like,
or sometimes they say the opposite, which is, I called my card company and charged it back.
Right. And
which is not ideal.
And that's not what any of us want, is like a chargeback from there's a process and fees that go into it. Those are things that we are working on to be able to manage that from a parental perspective. We are both inherently focused on that as parents ourselves to go be able to do that. But you think about it from like an allowance perspective. You know, they get a star report card or whatever, and you're like, okay, I'll give you 100 points. You know, in their head, they're like, I just got $100. Like, ultimately, for my report card, I'm like, you better get all A's then, right? As a parent, but be able to do that and incentivize them. It's like, okay, you get $100 to do that, or 100 points, to use this and set that up. Those are some things that, depending on the game and where we want to go and like what we're looking at, what platform you want to do. Do you want to go cross-platform? There's a lot of questions about that, but that is a use case that we're exploring.
I hope to talk to you after this talk.
Absolutely.
First of all, thank you, very informative. I want to have a quick question. You mentioned that the allowing the user to use points will improve the conversion, and it makes intuitive sense.
Right.
But I'm wondering at what point within the conversion funnel should that messaging be delivered? For instance, should it be on a product page, shopping cart, or checkout page? At what point should I communicate that you can use your points would be the most effective?
We're definitely going to test it in multiple scenarios into it. So we will, right now, it's on the checkout. So if you go through the process, you have your multiple options that are available. You want to pay PayPal, you want to pay other things like that, you want to pay credit card. You click on credit card, then you're already loaded in there. So right now, the user experience that we're looking at is it would show up. So it's almost like a little banner that would like kick up there from a graphic as we demonstrated over there, and it would show here's your points values of what you have available. If of course you had points on your card to do that. So we're definitely going to explore to incentivize people to use their points for this, and we're going to check it out in multiple ways, and then work with the games as they go into it. Is, you know, as you're trying to, you know, promote the game itself, like where in the whole funnel from the acquisition standpoint, from the initial download, where does it make sense to have this conversation? We're going to be working with a lot of partners to figure that out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think there's one more.
Hi there. Jake at join.gg with a Y, not an I. We actually make bots on Discord, and the bot, our bots have microtransactions all over them. And in the development space on Discord, we are looking for many ways to help monetize, and that's been something that's actually growing and getting better each day that we live on Discord. But have you guys thought about targeting that market? Because there's millions of transactions going on Discord.
That is another use case that we're looking at. Is probably the best way to answer that question. Going into it, it's you are correct, and I mean, obviously you built a business on it. Going into it, and you're a believer in it, that we are as well, and we just need to figure that out. It all comes into the checkout process and like how it connects in there. So the dream is be able to offer that up if you were going to make a credit card based on what the bot pushed out and what the links are and everything to incentivize people. So we're looking at drops, we're looking at different campaigns and things that we're able to do. That some of that would lead from Discord or Twitch or some other platform that's communicating an offer and come a direct link. And you know, you could use an influencer program to say, hey, check it out with if you get a bonus or you get, you know, an extra item into it from if you use your points from this transaction. Those are just some things that we would be working in. We're going to be testing from an influencer perspective.
Awesome, thank you. Definitely, let's connect.
Sure.
Thanks.
I think that's good. This countdown clock is like blinking at us right now, but we'll be available to answer any more questions. We're going around. Both of us have our teams here, so if there's other technical questions you want to get into as well. But thank you so much for coming today and listening to it and being interested, because this is going to revolutionize how our players play and pay for games.